Welcome everybody to day 4 of 12 days of Cricut Christmas crafts with Debbie O'Neill. I'm so glad to have you join me today. Today's class tutorial is going to be about holiday cards and envelopes. There are some great cards in Design Space that'll help you speed along the process of getting your holiday cards made. I'm going to go over a few basics of sizing your cards based on the images that come into Design Space. And then of course we'll do a project piece of this where we have 2 holiday cards that I picked in Design Space, and you're gonna see me put those together, and you'll have the supply list in the Design Space file will be located in the description of the video on my YouTube channel. So if you want to make this same card, you can certainly do that, and I cannot wait to get started. So let's go take a look at Design Space. Okay, so during the holidays we're all super busy, and we may want to give a handmade card, but we don't have time to sit down and design one. But guess what? Cricut's got a ton of them already designed for us in Design Space that we can go use, but we got to know how to find them. So let me show you that. I'm on my Design Space screen. Over here on the left hand menu, you're going to go into Images, and we're going to do some searches. Now what comes up on Images is just a selection of images that Cricut wants to see. They change out all the time, so that's why they never look the same. And while there may be a Christmas card that popped up here right now, that doesn't mean that you want to scroll through all of this trying to find the cards, right? What you want to do is you want to come over here into the image search area, and we're going to go into filter. So we're going to click on filter, and you're going to notice that if you go down here to type, you can click on cards and envelopes, because that's what you're looking for. So you're trying to narrow down all the, I don't know, 60,000 images in Design Space right now. And so I know I want cards and envelopes because that's what I want to make, but I also know that right now, yes, it filtered to cards and envelopes, which is great, but they're all different occasions. So I'm going to come up here to the search window, and I can type in Christmas. Now, of course, you can change this to whatever words you want when you do your search, but I'm just doing this as an example, and because I want to make a Christmas card. So I type in Christmas. So now what it's done, it is filtered for me every card in Design Space that is a Christmas card. Okay, that Cricut has tagged it as a Christmas card. But you're going to notice that it's going to show you ones that you need to pay for because maybe they're a licensed image, or it's going to show you the Cricut Access ones, or ones that you've purchased, or ones that you've like this one's a purchase one because it came from a Close to My Heart cartridge that I uploaded. And so it's going to give you everything. So that may still be too many cards for you to have to scroll through. So what you can do is go back over to filter, and I want to just pick cards that are all part of Cricut Access. Okay, simple enough. Now it has narrowed my search down even further, and now when I scroll through, I'm going to see some cards that I know I can cut because I have a Cricut Access membership, and I want to cut this one. I'm just going to go ahead and insert the image here. Now when it comes in on the screen, what you have to remember that is in Design Space, it flattens everything out. Okay, when it puts it, you may see it in the orientation that it looks like a folded card in the visual picture of it, but when it comes into Design Space screen, it flattens the whole thing out. So then how in the world do you size this, right? I know you're asking that question. I'm going to show you how. So it's going to come in. Now some of these are going to come in differently depending upon the image set and who designed them and that kind of thing. For this particular one, I can look over here in my layers panel, and it's just showing that this is an envelope, and it's already got the score lines attached to it, and it also is one outside layer and one inside layer. This is one of the simplest cards you can make, but you can still make them look really beautiful depending upon the materials that you pick, and it's pretty easy to cut these out. So, but now you want to know, how in the world do I get that card into this envelope, and how do I make this card the right size? Now, there's typically two sizes of cards. You have an A2 size is what it's called in the stationery world, and that's normally a 5.5 by 4 1/4 card. That means that when this card is folded in half, it will be 4 1/4 by 5.5, okay? But in Design Space, you're going to need to kind of think about that because they're showing the image of the card already flattened out. So we're going to have to think about which orientation do we want the card to be. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And we'll need to worry about how am I going to get that card into that envelope because it's grouped together. Not always going to work this way for you. So what I like to do is I need to go ahead and ungroup the envelope. Okay, I'm going to just move it off to the side. Now I have the card image, and I'm going to regroup this one just so it's together because it's two pieces, right? It is the outer layer plus this inner lining. Okay, so I want to have that group before I start sizing. Now, typically your cards are going to be, let's say I want to make this one 5 by 7. Okay, I want it, because of the orientation, because it's a horizontal type card instead of a vertical card, I want to make this 7 inches across, and then this would need to be 10 inches. If you folded the 10 inches in half, you would end up with a 5-inch card this direction, and if you cut the whole thing out at 7 inches, then you would end up with a 5 by 7 card. Okay, so that's what we're going to size it. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to come up here to my sizing window, and I'm going to unlock this, and I want the card to be 7 inches wide. Okay, and I want it to be 10 inches high. Okay, I'm going to scroll down a little bit so you guys can see that. Okay, so now my card, when I cut it out, is going to be a perfect 5 by 7 card. It's going to give me plenty of room to write on the inside, or I can stamp, or whatever I want to do. Now my card is going to be sized appropriately. Now I can certainly change this, and I can make this a smaller card if I want. If I wanted to just send out some A2 size cards, all right? So then I would change the dimensions for that. But what we want to know is, now how do I size this envelope so it's going to fit my 5 by 7 card? What I like to do is I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger, okay? And then because this is a 5 by 7 card, I'm going to go ahead and turn this the right direction so visually you guys will see that. And then I'm going to come over here to basic shapes, and I'm going to pick a square. And I'm going to take that square, and I'm going to unlock this, and I'm going to make that square 5 by 7. So it's 7 inches wide and it's 5 inches high, just like my card's going to be when I fold it in half. Okay. Now that I know that this is going to be, and I'll just show you guys, see, it's going to be a perfect fit, right, when I fold my card in half. But right now I need to get the envelope so that that 5 by 7 is going to fit into it. And the way I do it is that I create myself a little 5 by 7 template, then I'm going to highlight the envelope, and I'm going to use my grab bar down here, and I'm just going to pull this out. Okay, let me make this a little smaller so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this out, and then I'm going to make sure that my sizing template that I created is going to be the right, it's going to fit within those score lines. Okay, so I'm going to just keep scrunching this back in and then moving it around until I get this envelope exactly the way I want it. Every envelope in Design Space is different sizing, so I can't just tell you, oh, just make it this dimension, because they're all going to be, depending upon the shape of the flaps that they have on them, they're going to be different. Okay, the thing you need to remember is your overall size of your envelope needs to fit on your 12 by 12 mat, so you always want to double check that it's going to be fit within the 11.5 by 11.5 dimension for when you go to cut it out. So this one's going to fit perfectly. My mock up here of a 5x7 card fits in, and it's well within the lines of the score line. So when I fold it over, it's going to be beautiful. It'll work out great. And I'm going to show you guys that because I'm going to cut this one out to show you. Okay, so I'm going to regroup these because I'm going to pull these off right now because I'm going to cut those out later. But what I wanted to show you was that card image came from a cartridge that is called Simple Holiday Cards. And I know this because when I go into Design Space, let me come over here, I can click on one of the layers. I can come up here where it says See Image Information, and here it gives me the card name, and then it gives me the card ID number basically, and it says View Cartridge. So I'm going to click View Cartridge, and now I know that it came from the Simple Holiday Cards cartridge. Okay, it had handbooks for the booklets for the image sets. And how do you find those if you want to go look at the handbook? And now that we're in the digital age, we don't get physical handbooks, we get them electronically via the cartridge library. So you can go to the cartridge library, and it's at help.cricut.com/cartridge library, and I'll put a link in the description where you see today's video. Okay, and but you will be able to scroll through the cartridges and find the one that you wanted. So if we look at Simple Holiday Cards, I'm going to scroll through, they're all alphabetical. Okay, so I'm looking at Simple Holiday Cards, here it is, and I'm going to be able to open up the handbook. Now it's going to take a second for it to do that. Alright, so now you see that there is a PDF. Okay, you can actually download these if you want, and this is the original cartridge that came with this image set. Okay, but Cricut's changed everything because we use Design Space now. So when you go to look at these, it's going to look like it's a foreign language, seriously, because these were made when people were using booklets and dial systems on the old Cricut machines. Okay, so what's happened is you're going to see these. Everybody always asks me that, what are those little things on here? That used to be an overlay that you put on a legacy Cricut machine, and then it told you what these F1s and F2s are. That was, you would do function 1, function 2, function 3, whatever, and then it would size, and then the little numbers down here would size your card for you. So you really can't go too close to using this size in Design Space because your card shape is not going to be cut out correctly if you use the ones off the handbook. However, the handbooks are helpful sometimes because it shows you what you're getting. So in the layers, so you can see that it says this is going to be an over piece, and then there's an inside layer, right? Okay, so that's one of the ones I wanted to show you. The other one that I wanted to show you is the one where we're going to look at this this really cute cartridge, and this is from the Crazy Cute Cards. Okay, that's an image set, and there's all kinds of really cool images in here, really seriously cute. And the handbook gives you instructions, kind of a little step-by-step guide here that lets you know what orientation that you put your card together in. Okay, so that's another reason to know where the handbooks are for some of these cards, because sometimes you cut all the pieces out and you're like, I have no idea how I'm supposed to put this together. So there's a little bit of a visual guide here. The other thing that you're going to notice is for this particular image set, this one was made after Design Space came into existence, so they do have the right orientation of what your dimension you're going to put into Design Space to create that card. And I'm scrolling through there. See, there's super cute ones, right? Really, I love this one. And the snow globe card is the one that you and I are going to make together as our project today. And this is, it will tell you the finished card height. When you finish putting this card together, this is going to be a 7-inch high card, which is a nice size card. But instead of us having to do all of that finagling with creating a template and trying to make the card the right size, for this particular image set, it tells us exactly what we need to put in to our design space width and height to get this card size correctly, okay, including the envelope, because it's all going to come in together. So you would need to write down these measurements if you were doing this yourself. I'm going to have it already sized in the design space file, which will be the project for this particular day's class. So it'll be 31.98 width, and the height's going to be 15.52, and I'll show you guys how to do that. But I wanted to show you that this is the difference in some of these handbooks, because when people start looking through these, they're like, what in the world are they talking about? And it's because some of them are legacies. Okay, so Cricut slowly, as they're adding more image sets, they're giving us more directions like this for using Design Space. But we're going to go back over into Design Space, pull up the cartridge that came from, which was the Crazy Cute Cards. You can go in and search for it that way as well. So I'm trying to show you guys different ways. So when I search for an image, cartridge set image, it's going to come up with everything that has these 3 words on it. Okay, so you do have to scroll down until you find the right one, and we're looking for the Crazy Cute Card. So we're going to go into here, I'll pop it up, and then we're going to go find our globe card. Okay, so there's our globe card. I'm going to put it on our mat, and we're going to move this out of the way because we're not going to be cutting that just yet. And then now our image comes in. Look how tiny it came in. Okay, so some of your images, when you import these cards in, when you add them to your design space mat, they're going to come in super tiny small. Okay, so you definitely will have to size them, because if you tried to cut this out, this card would look like it was teeny tiny. So what we need to do is, this is when we're going to size it, and we're going to add those measurements in that we looked up on the handbook. So we know that it needs to be I'm going to unlock this. The width needs to be 31.98, and the height, it said, needs to be 15.52. And then I want to lock it back because I don't want to mess anything up, because I want it to be the way it's supposed to be. So, and I'll make this a little smaller so you guys can see that. Okay, so now all the images are sized appropriately. So when we go to hit the design space file, I'm going to go ahead and hit make it. Okay, so I'm going to go in and hit make it. When it goes to the make it screen, now it's going to split that image up. Even though it's one ginormous image, it's going to cut it, it's going to split it out into each of the different mats based on the colors that they have coded it. Okay, so, and that's the one, that's the other house, but you'll see that all those layers are on here. Okay, and they're already split up. That's the thing that people sometimes get concerned about or confused about. So I wanted to make sure I showed you guys that. So once you find a card that you really love, see what the image name is, see what card set it came from, and then go to the handbook library and look it up and see if it has any dimensions on it. And if it has design space dimensions, you just need to jot those down, and then you'll be able to size your card appropriately. If not, then you can use my trick where I created a template and then use that to help size my card, so that my card would be the right size for, you know, regular mailing. And right now what we're going to do is we're going to go into Design Space. You're going to use the Design Space file that I have provided for the class. It's in the description where the video is, and we're going to cut out the pieces for the card, and we're going to assemble this one because I want you guys to have a project from today that you guys can see. And then I'm also going to we'll have both of these. We'll have both of these on the Design Space mat. They will already be sized for you, and then we're going to put both of these cards together. Okay, so let's talk about the supplies that you're going to need for the holiday cards. And you're going to need some basic tools that you're going to have in your stash of supplies when you go to make cards, and you're going to need some card materials, right? So cards are typically made out of cardstock, maybe some pattern paper, maybe some type of specialty paper, that type of thing. The supplies you're going to see me use today are the things that I selected to use for the card, the sample card that we're going to be making. But there's some basic tools that you want to have on hand. So the first thing you definitely need to have when you make a card is you have to have a way to do the score line. So if you're using a Cricut Explorer, you're going to use the Cricut scoring stylus. So you will need to have one of these, or you'll need to have, if you're using the Cricut Maker, you're going to need the scoring wheel, okay, because this is the scoring point here. Or you can use a scoring stylus. So either one of these for the Maker, and this one just for the Explorer, okay? So you'll need that. You're going to need a spatula that's going to help you lift your material up off of your Cricut mat after you finish cutting it. And I also use the scraper sometimes, so I always have those two things out. And a pair of scissors always comes in handy just in case you need it to trim something. And for the card, one of the cards that we're going to be looking at today, I did need to pull a ruler out because of the way this card is designed. I picked that card intentionally so that I could show you guys how to do that card and use that supply. And then, of course, you're always going to need adhesives to put your card together. So you need some type of a tape runner. Now, I'm just using a Tombow permanent adhesive tape runner. I get these online. You can buy them in the craft stores and whatever. So you'll need one of these, and you'll need for when you're working with smaller pieces with one of the cards that we're going to be making, I like to use a glue pen. So this is a Close to My Heart Bonding Memories dual action glue pen. It's the same as those Zig two-way pens. It's a chisel point tip. Okay, so one of these, you can pick them up at the craft store, and you want to have, if you're going to be working with glitter paper, I am going to use some types of glitter paper and any specialty papers. Occasionally you will need a liquid glue instead of using your tape runner because it's not going to stick to it. So this is a liquid glass glue from Close to My Heart that I'm using. I like it because it has a nice chisel point on here. Or you can use any, like a Scotch Quick Dry glue would be good to use for that, but you need some kind of liquid glue in your stash. And you need some double-sided tape, okay? So this is double-sided sticky tape. This is a Score Pal tape that I use, and you can use any brand. It's up to you. But when you go to put your envelopes together, you want them to really stick well, particularly if you're going to be putting them in the mail, and this is what we're going to be using that for. All right, and then we're going to talk about materials. So today's cards that we're going to be making, I am using some specialty paper, and I'm using the Shimmer paper from Cricut, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It's like using a glitter paper, except that it's completely smooth. See how pretty that is? Okay, so, and Cricut sells this in a bunch of different colors and packs. So I'm using, this is what I would consider a specialty paper. All right, and I'm also going to be using a foil paper. So you can see here where I'm really, dressing up my cards because they're holiday cards, adding a little interest to them. So I'm using this foil paper. This is the foil paper from Cricut, and I'm going to be using some white glitter cardstock from Cricut as well. And then we're going to use some cardstock. Okay, so I'll list the colors of the cardstock that I used in the description for the video, where I list the supplies, and I'll give you links for all of these. But you'll need some cardstock. So you'll see the colors that I'm using when I show you the sample here in a minute. So you're going to need that, and you will need to have your Cricut mat, right? So I'm just using my light grip Cricut mat, but it is one that has a lot of, it's still really sticky, so it'll hold the paper down. If you're using a very heavyweight cardstock, sometimes you need to go ahead and use the green regular grip mat.
because the light grip mat may not hold it securely enough for you. So you need to kind of play with that depending upon the materials that you pick. So that's what we need for supplies. Now let's get started making the cards. I have already cut out all the card pieces, and we're going to assemble the card together. Okay, so here is the card that you saw me size in Design Space earlier, and this is one of those just layered cards. It's a simple layer card. So you have a card base, right? And then this is where the score line is. And then you would fold your card over, and then you would apply the layer piece. Okay, now I added a second layer piece to the inside of the card so that I would have a place to either stamp a sentiment or write or I could use the Cricut pen and put a sentiment in here, or I need a place to sign my card, right? That type of thing. So because I'm using red cardstock, I didn't want to do it on the red, so I would like to have a clean white cardstock. Plus it also gives your card more stability so that it's easily to stand up for people that want to display them that way. So it's just nice to add the extra liner from where you're going to be doing your writing. So this looks cute, looks pretty. This was super simple. It cuts out beautifully on the Cricut. This is Cricut red cardstock. Cricut has a whole new line of cardstock out that comes in multicolor packs, and so all the cardstock that I'm using came from the Cricut cardstock. So it definitely cuts out great. But you can use, your whatever colors you want to use. But let me show you something. So here it is, just in 2 colors of cardstock. Looks nice, really pretty, right? But how about if we used a specialty paper and we blinged up our card? Can you guys see that? This is the gold shimmer. Look how pretty that looks. And it now makes this card look super fancy. So you can take something really basic, which still is very nice, but then you add some specialty paper to it, and it just it elevates that card. So I wanted to be able to show you guys that. And this one's the one that we're going to assemble. So I also cut a white piece out that's going to be, on my signing side, right? Now this card, here's the score line. Now what you're going to notice for this card, the design is cut out very close to the top edge here. Okay, so to fold this over, what I have found best is to take my ruler. This is why I wanted you guys to have a ruler. Take the ruler and I line that up along the edge of where my score line is, and then I fold it over around the ruler, using it to help me get a nice clean edge. So this is what you would do on these types of cards. There's a ton of these cards in Design Space, and so you may find one that is the perfect one for you for whatever occasion. But that's a little tip so that you get it folded over without tearing those little edges up here, because the design is so close to where the edge of the card is. All right, so once you've done that, then of course you can put your liner in, but then you want to put your pretty paper on, right? And I'm going to turn this around. So this is going to fit just like this on the inside of your card. Okay, so you're going for this, but with your pretty side facing the design. But you want to make sure that all of these areas stick down onto your material. Okay, whatever the paper is. So I am going to use, let's see, what do I do with my dual action glue pen? So I'm using my dual action glue pen, and here along where some of the lines are on here, I'm going to just dab. I'm just doing little dabs around that so that it's going to stick to my liner piece. And I want to get around where these little letters are, like in the word Mary, where that Y is. You definitely want to put some there. You want to put some where the M comes down, because if you don't, it's not going to stay flush on your card, and that piece is going to be popping out, and your card's not going to look as nice. So you can use a tape runner too for some of the bigger pieces. I just have this out. And then, so I'm just going to use the glue pen. And then you want to do all the way around the edges. Okay. Now this goes on blue, these go on blue, but then they turn clear as the glue starts to. Okay, you want to make sure you get those lines. Okay, that's on there. And I'm going to come in here and do a few more around here. Okay, so you just want to make sure you have a generous amount. And along the edge, it's really going to be important. So you want to make sure over here where this is really tight, where the design is really close to the edge of the card, you definitely want to use a glue pen is best for these. And I'm running glue all along the bottom, along the side there, so that now when I lay my pretty side down onto my glue, and some of this may be be self-evident to you guys, but I know a lot of you are new to making your own cards, and so I wanted to show you a few tips here on how to get that to work. And then I'm just going to press down. You really need to pay a lot of attention to the top of the card here because of the way this card is designed, and all of these seem to be like that. So you just keep pushing down on it, and then you have this really beautiful card with the specialty paper. Okay, so either way. All right, so these are these two. You can cut this out or not, but I wanted to show you the style of it. We also size the matching envelope, remember? So I want to show you how to put these together. You have two side flaps. Now you will have already used your scoring tool on this, right, when you cut it out. And when you look at your flaps, so you want to score it all along here, and that's when I usually use my scraper and go along the edges of my card envelope so that it just has a nice sharp crisp look to it. So I fold it over once, then I fold it over, then I score it, the whole thing. Okay, now you have two flaps here. One is going to be larger this way. On all envelopes, it seems to be this way. So you always have one piece that's larger, and then you have one that is the top flap. Think of it that way. So we're going to add some double-sided tape. To the edge of the flap of that bigger bottom flap. Okay, and then I want to push this down on there so it's on there really good. And I'm going to remove the liner. Now this is that double-sided sticky tape. The challenge with using a tape runner is it doesn't always stay down as well for something that's going to be pushed through the mail system, for something that is going to be have something that goes in and out of it. So you want to use the double-sided tape. All right, then you have your top flap. Okay, so what are you going to do for your top flap here? Now I can use my tape runner when I go to close this up because I want it to be able to be lifted up. Okay, so I can use a tape runner. I can also use a product that I get from the office supply store that's called Lick and Stick, and it's a remoistenable envelope glue. So this is, you would get your envelope ready, and then you would dab this on across here, and then you let it dry. Once it's dried, then you can moisten it, and then it's just like a store-bought envelope that you use where you have the stickiness that you need to wet to be able to close the envelope up. Okay. The other thing is you can always use some type of cute washi tape and put across the edge of your card to seal the envelope. Okay. So those are some options for you. And a lot of times I'll just use my tape runner and run just a line here and then fold it over and press it. And not usually that is plenty to keep the envelope closed if I'm putting it in the mail. All right, so that's envelopes. And now we're going to have some fun. we're going to work on a totally layered, multi-layered card that is the snow globe card, because I wanted you guys to see how these go together and then end up with a really pretty card. So you have, as part of this file, you have the word Happy Holidays. Now these two pieces look like they're welded together, but when you cut them out, they're going to be two separate little pieces. Don't worry about that. That was the way the file was designed. So I've got those. And then I'm using, for the layers, I'm using one of the foil, the silver foil, as my top layer of my card. I'm going to flip this over as I'm doing it so you know what order to put things in. And then you're going to have a layer that's going to be the white layer. And I chose to do my white layer in glitter paper. Okay, so you're going to have the white layer. So we have silver. So you have a top layer to your card. Then you have a white layer, the one that has the snowflakes on it. And then you're going to have your card base. Okay, so the card base is, for this particular card, is going to be a darker blue. Okay, so you have a card base. The card base was where the scoring tool was used in Design Space for you to score the edge of the card. So then it's going to look like this. Okay, so we've got the card base, and then we have all the pieces. Let me move this up here out of the way. So you will have some white pieces that get cut out when you cut out the white base of the card. And these are snow drifts that are going on the top of your card. And then you're also going to have, I used a gray color for the background mountain. And then I used a lighter blue. See how it's nice contrast there with the blue background, the dark blue background. Then I had gray, and then I have a lighter blue. Okay, and the top layer here is the one that has the snowflakes on it, and it has these slits in here. Okay, these slits is where we're going to be putting this little pocket that will go, that our other little piece is going to go on. So you have all of these, and we're going to assemble that, and then you have all the pieces that go for your insert. Okay, and so there is a red background layer, a brown, it's got the trees, and it has the white glitter paper or white paper, whatever you decided to use, in the little snow caps. Okay, so those are the pieces that you're going to have here. This goes on the front of the card. All right, so this is going to be layered together. Since I'm using glitter cardstock, I need to be able to glue it to the back of my foil cardstock as we're doing this. Okay, now glitter cardstock, you cannot use you really can't expect it to stick using a tape runner. It's just not going to work as well. So when you want to add a layer to a glitter cardstock, I wanted to get my my other mat, because I'm using glue. So this is a craft mat, because I don't want to get any liquid glue on top of my self-healing mat. So I'm just going to do this. Okay, so anytime you're going to try to apply something on top of glitter cardstock, your best bet is going to be to use a quick drying liquid glue. Okay, so that's where the liquid glue that I told you guys about is going to come in handy. And we only need to do around the outside, and I'm putting just a small amount. It doesn't take a lot. And I'm going to go all the way around. Now, if you're not using glitter cardstock and you're using a piece of regular cardstock, you can use the glue pen if you want. Okay, so what I've done is I put it around the edges. I didn't put it on the snowflakes because I'm not gluing anything on top of the snowflakes. And I did a few stripes of glue across this bigger base piece. And then I'm going to take my foil. Now, I cut mine out of a foil piece, okay? Yours may be a piece of cardstock, okay? Whatever you cut your top layer out of. And then you want to line these up. And the good thing about using a liquid glue with the glitter paper is that if you don't have it quite lined up, you have a couple of seconds to move it. So now I've got this is my top piece that goes on the top of my card. Okay, so now this piece can be glued to the front flap of your dark blue card base. Okay, so this is going to go here on top of this. Now, since the back of the Cricut glitter cardstock is a smooth surface, it's not glitter on both sides, I can just use regular adhesive if I want to be able to glue this together. I'm just going to go ahead and use my liquid glue because I have it right here in my hand. And same thing, you're just going to go along the outside. You don't need to add glue to your snowflakes because your snowflakes are kind of free form, so to speak. They're not stuck to anything. And I'm just putting little dollops on here to hold that on. Okay, I want to open this up, and this is the front of my card. I'm going to line all of that up. You just want to hold it on for a second or two just to make sure that it's grabbing the surface. So now you're going to have your card is going to be able to be folded open like this. Okay, so now we want to do our pieces that are going to go inside of our card. So this mountain is going to go back here, your gray one, and then the blue one's going to go on top of this one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stick these two together, and I'm just going to use my tape runner for this. Make sure you get those points up on the mountain there so that, and don't put adhesive where across those cut lines on here, okay? But you can put some along the edges of it. Okay, and we want to line our cuts up. Okay, we want to line our cuts up so that our flap is going to fit in those lines. So this is really important that you get this. I'm going to flip it over because it's easier for me to see it that way. I'm going to start on one edge and make sure I have the edge lined up across the side and the bottom. And then that way my slits in the card are going to be the same. So see how now it's cut and lined up correctly. Okay, this goes on the back of the card, and then you have this little card piece. Okay, so this little card piece, I'm going to go ahead and insert it into this. So there's two fold lines on the side, so I'm going to fold those in, and then there's one across the bottom. Okay, and then these little flaps go inside this before you glue your card down. So I'm going to put the flaps in. And what it's doing is it's creating a little pocket that our little decorative piece is going to go inside of. Now once I get those in there, then I'm just going to fold the flaps over. Okay, and now you've created a little pocket on the front of your card. Okay, then we can glue this down to the back of the card, and you're going to line up these shapes here are going to line up with the bottom shape of the navy blue, whatever dark blue you're using. Okay, so now this is down, so we're starting to see our card come together, right? Looking pretty already. And then we want to we're going to make our insert that's going to go in here, which is the little house or school, and maybe it's the church. It has a bell at the top of it. You do have some snow caps that need to go on your mountains. So there's one that has kind of this zigzag look on the side, and it's going to go right up here. And you can just use your tape runner to stick that on. Okay, so there's that snow cap, and then you have a snow cap that looks like this. and it's going to go down next. Okay. And then we have snow caps, the double one, okay, and that's going to go across. This one's tricky because you think it's going to go on just one color, but it goes across the two colors of mountain. Okay, so it's going to go across these two. Look, it's starting to look like mountains. All right, and then you have two little pieces here. These are I'm going to use the glue pen for, because they are tiny, tiny, tiny. And using the tape runner, I might tear them. Okay, this one goes up here. Okay, and then the last one, the last little one, goes on that little mountain piece in the center. You want your snow caps on, and then you're going to have these pieces. So these also have snow caps that go to them, and you have little green trees. Okay, so these are all the layers for this little insert piece. Okay, so it starts with a red background piece, and then you have this brown, dark brown piece that's going to go on the top here. And there again, I'm going to just use my glue pen to add some glue along these little tiny pieces here. And you're just going to line these up like so. And press that down. And I want to add my white, this is another white piece, so I'm using glitter paper for this. And I'm just going to stick that here on the bottom. Okay, and then we want to add our trees, so you have two sets of trees. A single one goes on this side. I'll lay my tree down. So this is the question that I get asked a lot of times, and that's why I picked this card, was what do you use and how do you do it when you have these beautiful layered cards with all these different elements and shapes, and what adhesive do you use? So that's why I picked this card, because there's a lot going on. So there is a piece of glitter cardstock or white cardstock that looks like this. It's going to go along the top of the tree and then also along the edge of the house or the church here. Okay, just like that. We've got our last piece here. Nope, there's two more pieces, sorry. Okay, so this is going to go along the top of this tree, the double trees, and then this goes along the side of the church. Okay, so it goes like that, and I'll hold this up and show you in a minute. And then we got our final piece on. Just like so, and then this little piece fits inside the pocket. Okay, so this could be an element that gets removed, and you put your sentiment and you sign it on the back of this piece, sign it, and then this is the little insert piece for your card here. And then we're going to fold this over, and then this card did not come with the sentiment on the front of the card, and I felt like it needed something, so you could either add, I was going to do the Happy Holidays across the front here. Okay, so you could put it here. That's what I thought looked best. Or you could always put it here on your insert piece, because it's not going to show, and then when they open it up it says Happy Holidays. So it's really whatever you prefer. I like putting it on the front of the card, so that's what you're going to see me do right now. And I'm going to start with the side that says days on it, and I'm just adding a little bit of that adhesive glue. And I've sized this so it fits just perfectly when you put that S over here by the snowflakes. I'm just adding that last bit of adhesive. Just like this. Okay, so let me show you the card. So here is this beautiful layered card. Look how pretty that is. It's super pretty. And then you open it up and there's your inside part, and then they could pull this piece out and have a sentiment on the inside of the card. So that's the snow globe card. I'm going to show you how to put the envelope together for this card as well, because it's a little bit different. So the snow globe card does come with an envelope, but this envelope is completely different than the one that I showed you to put together earlier for the other card. This one was all one piece, and you just folded up the edges and voila, you had your card. This one comes as two pieces. So let me show you. So on the bottom piece, there are score lines on the side. So you want to fold those up. I do want to use my scraper tool and just go along the edges to give me some nice sharp creases. And I made this bottom piece using cardstock. Okay, I used the same green that I used for the trees. All right, now the top piece is a little bit different, because if you just folded your envelope up like this, you would have no top flap to fold over, right? Well, this is where they got cutesy with this, and there is a fold line along the edge of this piece, okay? So it's going to fold the flap up like that. You're going to flip this out, and it is going to line up along the top edge of your card. So I'm going to turn it over this direction. Okay, so it's going to go on the card like this. All right, so this piece is going to get adhered to the card, and I'm just going to use my tape runner for this, and I'm going to run a line of adhesive just this side of the okay. So there it is, and then I'm going to line this piece up along the folding edge. Okay, so you're going to put it together like this. Then you're going to flip it over. So now it is adhered, and we're going to turn these flaps in our bottom piece. So we're going to add some of that score tape. And there are several cards in Design Space that have this style of envelope, and I get asked questions all the time. What am I supposed to do with this? So that's why I wanted to pick this particular card, because it gave us a lot of unusual things for me to share with you about putting these types of cards together. Okay, so I've added some adhesive here, and we're going to fold this up. Make sure that this is stuck down really well. And then when you fold this flap over, that becomes the back of your card. Here's the front where you can address it, but then it has a cute little back on it. So that's how you put this envelope together. And there again, I could just add some adhesive here to seal it up. But this is what your snow globe card fits in. Make sure I get that in there correctly. And ta-da! Now your snow globe card is ready. Now I will say that depending upon the materials you used to make your snow globe card with, since I used foil cardstock and I used glitter cardstock, and I have pattern paper, and it has this, you know, the insert piece here. This card is pretty heavy. You're probably going to be, this is going to be an oversized card probably to mail weight-wise. So you want to double check at the post office to make sure how much it's going to cost you to send this particular card, because I know it weighs more than 1 ounce. That is making holiday cards. Some tips for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this and that you got a lot out of making your own holiday cards. Stay tuned for the next class in the series tutorial where we're going to be making another fun holiday project.